I'm one of those agents that was afraid of that 800-pound phone. And I knew I had to get on the phone in order to make money because I moved to a new city and didn't know anyone. And it wasn't until I mastered the power of scripts, learning how to say the right thing, how to answer their questions and overcome their objections. When I got that to that point, I was able to get out there and start taking listings.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to a brand new episode of Vulcan7 Coaches and Mentors, where we bring you some of the best in the industry to share with you their tips and strategies so that you can implement in your business immediately. Now, if you haven't caught up on our previous episodes, go ahead and check those out. You can watch them on YouTube or listen to them on your favorite streaming platforms. Now, on today's episode, we're going to be talking about a topic that perhaps many of you are going through, and that is maybe you're not being consistent, or you feel like you're putting in the work, but maybe you think that you're not really getting the results or things need to change. Well, get your pen and paper ready because today I have an amazing guest, David Radney. Let's break it down. David, welcome.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. So, for everyone that's watching, for the audience that maybe doesn't know who David is, go ahead and tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I've been in real estate for 20 years. The past 6 years, I've been a real estate coach. I have a program called Push, where I teach agents how to prospect and how to go on listing appointments and secure the listing. And it's my passion helping people. I live by Zig Ziglar's motto: you help enough people get what they want, you always get what you want. And so I like to show up for my agents and help them win.
That's awesome. So, tell us a little bit about maybe your journey when you first started in the business and what that prospecting looked like for you.
Well, let me say this. I'm one of those agents that was afraid of that 800-pound phone. And I knew I had to get on the phone in order to make money because I moved to a new city and didn't know anyone. I was paralyzed by fear. And what I kept doing was reading more books, going to more classes, attending more webinars and seminars, and I was never getting started. And so I will tell you this, looking back on it, I don't know what I was afraid of at the time, but back then it was a real fear because you're calling someone and asking them to trust you with their biggest asset. And I really didn't feel comfortable having that conversation. I didn't think I was ready. And it wasn't until I mastered the power of scripts, learning how to say the right thing, how to answer their questions and overcome their objections. When I got that to that point, I was able to get out there and start taking listings. So it really changed my whole business.
So, how long did that take? From the moment that you're like, I don't want to pick up the phone to the moment that you did it and you're like, you know what, this is not that bad.
So I would say probably about 6 months. It took me some time to really get comfortable with it and understand that they're not going to come to my office and knock on the door and look for me. And it really took a conversation I had with my coach where he was saying, look, you tell me your wife is working hard every single day to make money for the family. And Dave, I look at your schedule and you're going to classes and webinars and broker opens and reading all these books and you look busy. However, you haven't done one thing to bring income into your household. How would dinner go tonight if you had to tell your wife after watching her work hard all day that you didn't do anything to produce income for the family? It was that conversation that made me say, you know what?
Mhm.
I'm never having that conversation with Michelle. I'm going to get on the phones tomorrow, no matter how I feel, and I'm going to start making calls. And I did that, and I got hung up on, and I was so bad I hung up on people. However,
Yep, I get that.
you know how that goes. I was so committed to it though that
Yeah.
no matter what happened, I kept picking that phone up every day. And in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks, I'm like, oh, they all say the same thing. All I need to do is know how to respond to the common objections. And it just got easier. Those little baby steps
Mhm.
I was taking every day, it just got easier and easier and easier. And before you knew it, I was converting. I was getting appointments and then getting listings.
Yeah. I love that you bring up, going to trainings and webinars and doing open houses on all these things because what I see many times agents do is that they just want to get filled with so much education and it's almost like they're allergic to the execution part of actually doing the thing.
That's right. That's right.
So no, that's awesome that once you got started, you're like, you know what, this is not bad. I'm hearing the same things. So when it comes to consistency, um, how did you become consistent once you started to make those changes?
For me, it was just a matter of having a standard in my business. We talk about time blocking. We hear that as real estate agents all the time. However, it's not just about time blocking, it's time blocking with honor, which in my book means if I'm writing it down in my calendar and I'm promising myself that I'm going to lead generate from 9 to 12 every day, I have to do it no matter how I feel. Like
Mhm.
it's my friend Ira Goodman says this all the time. Like it's our job. This is what we need to do. And if we were working for someone else, we'd show up no matter how we felt so we could get our paycheck. And so the way I looked at it was I have two jobs. My job in the morning is to get on and find opportunity on the phones. And my job in the afternoon is to go secure that opportunity by getting the paperwork signed. And so I stayed consistent because I respected my time block. And I also knew what my big why was. I knew why I was showing up every day. That was super
Mhm.
important to me.
Did you have a coach or an accountability partner that also made sure that you were staying consistent and doing what you were supposed to be doing?
So I had accountability partners that were my role play partners. And so it's kind of like when you go to the gym. If you are working out by yourself and you don't feel like getting up and going, you don't go. When you know that person's waiting for you at the gym, you get up and go no matter how you feel. And so my role play partners were my accountability partners. We had commitments to get up and start our role play. And right after that, start making calls. And we would talk at the end of our lead gen time about our results. And so if
Mhm.
I didn't show up, I'm not only letting myself down, I'm letting them down. And I'm also teaching them what type of person I am. And integrity is huge with me. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm committed to it and I show up no matter how I feel.
Yeah. I love that, and I think that's a big thing that unfortunately we don't see in a lot of agents where maybe they say they're gonna do it. I'm committed, David, you can count on me. And then a week later, they're like, you know what? I'll do it tomorrow. Or then they just kind of start falling off.
Of course.
So I'm sure someone's watching this and they're like, well, David, how do I find an accountability partner that's actually like committed? Because people usually start and then they kind of fall off. Now I have to look for someone else. Like, what do you recommend for that?
So, I have a coaching program, and one thing I do for my coaching clients that really talk a good game, I always say to them, put your money where your mouth is. Because someone did that to me in the past. And so, as an example, I have a great agent. Her name is Patty Gurney. During COVID, she wrote me a check for $1,000 and that she had to do her lead gen and have X number of contacts every day, reported to me by 9 p.m., or else that check got cashed. A lot of times, I think we just need to put our money where our mouth is and make it uncomfortable for ourselves. Like, if I don't keep this commitment, there's a penalty. And
Mhm.
I would encourage people to find someone who will hold them accountable, someone they know would cash that check, someone they know they don't want to disappoint, and more importantly, have your big why right in front of you. It's hard for me to walk away from doing my work when I'm looking at college tuition for my daughter, when I'm looking at the money I need to take care of my mother. I can't just get up and walk away. That picture is accountability to how I need to show up every day. So I would say
Mhm.
find someone who's willing to hold you accountable and make it uncomfortable for yourself. And if you're not willing to write $1,000 check, I think you need to have a conversation with yourself, because not being willing to write it is always already just kind of like bringing up an excuse not to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I love that story because I think so many agents would be hesitant to even do that because it's like $1,000 to send to David. But for me personally, I would be like, I wouldn't be afraid. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to make sure that I do what I say I'm supposed to do so that David doesn't cash that check.
Well, listen, it started off with 200, and I was like, "Is 200 enough, Patty?" And she's like, "Well, what if I like double it and make it five?" I was like, "Is that painful for you?" She was like, "Very." I said, "Then you need to make it 1,000." And she was 1,000. I said, "Well, listen, are you going to do it?" She was like, "Absolutely." I said, "So it could be 5,000. It doesn't matter if you're committed to it and you plan to do it.
Mhm.
So write 1,000." And guess what? During COVID, when everyone else had their head in the sand and they had a horrible year, she had her best year ever. And I won't tell her finances, but let me tell you, any agent would have been happy to have the year she had during COVID. And it's
That's
because she
so
was
awesome.
consistent and being held accountable.
That's so awesome. Shout out to her. Maybe we'll need to like bring her on the show too so that she can share her story because I think a lot of agents might need that extra push put your money where your mouth is.
Have her come on because she's great with that story, but she's also great at manifesting an affirmation. She'd be incredible.
Oh, awesome. Yes, yes. So as we're, talking about consistency,
Yeah.
there's probably agents that are like, well, you know what? I'm putting in all this work. I'm not really seeing the results. Like, how do I know I'm getting better? Let's talk about the invisible progress. Like, what is that?
So here's the way I'll paint the picture for you. You ever been to a party where they have oh, what is it called? Pinata. Thank you. Where they have
Yes.
pinatas, right? So imagine when the first kid goes up and hits a pinata, nothing happens, right? Second kid, third kid, fourth kid, fifth kid, nothing happens. They're all hitting the pinata. It doesn't break open, right? Eventually, though, you have one kid get up and they whack it hard and it breaks. Who actually broke the pinata? Was it the last kid or was it all those kids, that little invisible progress that was building up over time?
Mhm.
That's how lead gen is and staying consistent with making calls. You start off and you're calling every day, you're calling every week, you're doing all this follow up, and you feel like nothing's happening. However, on the other side, they're getting your messages, they're getting your texts, they're getting your postcard, they're getting closer to a point where they're getting ready to make a buying decision and hiring an agent. And it's just up to you to keep that consistent follow up. It's invisible progress that you can't necessarily see. But then when they finally call you and say, hey, we're ready, can you come out and meet with us? That's the benefit of all your effort that you put into it. And that's not how you have to view it. You have to view it like I'm putting the work in, it will pay off as long as I stick with it.
Mhm. And even going along with that, staying consistent and continuing to go when you're not seeing the results. Because sometimes what I see also is that I know it's happened to me that I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should switch it up. And it's like the moment that you switch it up or that you stop doing something
Yep,
like that next week, the lead that you should have followed up with ends up listing their house. And then
absolutely.
you're like beating yourself up for it.
You have to stay the course, and this is why I think it's so important to track your numbers, because I knew like I had to make calls for X number of hours to talk to X number of people, to get X number of appointments, to get X number of listings. So when you track your numbers over time, it's a little easier to deal with that invisible progress because you know, okay, 50 more calls and I'll have a listing appointment. It's pretty
Mhm.
predictable when you track your numbers. So that really helps because although you get bored throughout the day, because lead gen is boring, I'm not going to sit here and try to make it super sexy. You have to learn how to get comfortable with the boredom of focus and know that that invisible progress is building up and eventually you're going to get the results that you're looking for as long as you stay the course.
Yeah. So obviously tracking your numbers. Let's
Yes.
get into a little bit about, your coaching because obviously
Yeah.
we know Patty, we know what she's doing, but tell everyone else because maybe they're like, "You know what? Maybe I need to join David's coaching because I want to be like Patty."
So this is the way I operate. You guys don't know me. I need you to get to know me to see that I'm not transactional. I really create a tribe around the people who coach with me. And so before I really talk about my push training program, what I'd love to do is just invite you to come to my Friday script practice. It's a free call on Zoom. You get an opportunity to see how I operate, how I coach. You get an opportunity to learn what to say and how to say it. And all you have to do is go to my Instagram or you can go to my website. My Instagram is David Radney Push, and my website is David Radney. I keep it pretty simple. And you can register for this call. Again, it's free. As you get to know me and see what I coach on, you will hear me talk about my coaching program. And if you're comfortable with my style and delivery and what I'm delivering, I'd love to schedule a call with you and talk to you about my coaching program.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to put all of your links in the description box below.
Yes.
But going back to these Friday, the live streams and the Zooms, we're friends on Instagram. I follow you. I see you pop up every Friday, and I'm like, that's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about how that goes in there? Because obviously, I think role playing and script practice is extremely important if agents actually want to master these
Yeah.
skills. But tell us more.
So most of the agents on there, I mean, they use Vulcan 7, so they're calling for sell by owners, they're calling expires. And so what I love is I coach them and say, when you get a call and you have a tough question or an objection you can't overcome, come to the Friday script practice, play out the scenario, let other people show you how they will overcome that objection or answer that question. And then you learn so that you know how to handle it next time. So it's really about taking real play when you're on the phone and then coming to the role play and saying, this is what I'm coming up against. How can you help me push through so that I can create the opportunity? What I love about the Friday script practice, it's constructive feedback. It's a safe space where you can make a mistake. We have to sweat and practice so we don't bleed in war. So we allow you to feel comfortable stepping out of your comfort zone, knowing that all the feedback and interaction you're going to get is very positive and encouraging, and it's going to make you want to get back on the phone because now you have an answer for that question. You have a way to overcome that objection, and you can call that seller back and actually secure the appointment. So that's the beauty of the Friday script practice.
And is there a fee?
No, and let me tell you why. When I started in real estate 20 years ago, I needed to call FSBOs and expires and didn't know how. And I looked for people to help me and I couldn't find anybody. So my whole thing is I want to be the coach and mentor I needed 20 years ago. And I do it for free. Like I said before, I believe if you help people get what they want, you always get what you want. And I am so blessed that my coaching program is going every year because people appreciate how I come from contribution and pour it to them even without paying. And so they're like, this is what he gives me for free. I can't even imagine the coaching program. So it's no fee. The only fee that I have is that you have to have your camera on to participate. That's it. Like, I want
There
you to
you
get out of
go.
your comfort zone.
Yes. Yeah. No, and I'm glad you brought that up. That's why I asked because, the fact that someone could jump in on a role play session and get direct feedback from you with the experience, with the knowledge, I mean, you could probably have to go and pay somewhere else. But again, agents, if you're watching this, make sure to join these sessions. We're going to put all of the links below. But aside from that, as we wrap this up,
Yeah.
we're getting close to the end of the year. We're going to be starting 2025 soon. What are three things that agents need to be doing right now to set themselves up for success?
So a couple of things. Number one, check how you're talking to yourself. Real estate is simple, it's not easy. So you need to create affirmations and start speaking into existence the type of business you want and the type of agent that you want to be. And with that comes a responsibility of being a business owner. You need to set up a business plan. You need to sit down and time block all the lead generating activities that you need to do to be successful, and time block those in your calendar with honor, which means you do them no matter how you feel because that's your job. And it's not like you're going to get fired if you don't do it. You're just not going to make any money. And we're here to make money, right? So that's the thing I
Exactly.
would say. And then also what you need to do is really plug in and get back to the basics, which means scripting and role playing and staying on the phone and being committed to your lead generation that you do every day and the follow up you do every day. If you do those three things, you're going to go into 2025 with the right attitude, with the right training, and with the right systems in place to have success.
There you go. So obviously you heard it here from David. Make sure to check out his links. David, thank you so much once again for hopping on.
Thank
We've
you.
had David in the past, so make sure to watch our previous episode. And I'm sure we're going to keep on bringing you back so that you can tell us even more success stories from agents that you're coaching. I feel like there's so many different topics that we can talk about. But yeah, thank you once again.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Have a good rest of your day.
Yes. All right, everyone. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.